Hi, so I hope your Monday and Tuesday have been great. We are going to tackle Wednesday's lesson, which is day 2. A couple things I want to make sure that you guys know that we're going to cover in this video and what I expect of you today. So, what you're going to do today, I'm going to go over some frequent questions that you guys have had so far, or frequent misconceptions that I've seen when I've seen some of you guys working. So we're going to go over that first. And then we're going to do a check for understanding. So I'm going to give you a couple practice problems that you can do on your own to make sure you're still on track. And then I'm going to have you start 15.2 on dynamic classroom on big ideas. That I'm going to show you how to get there and what I expect you to do while you are in dynamic classroom, because I know there's been a lot of questions. Do I need to do the exercise questions and all that jazz? So I want to make sure that I hit those questions and show you what I do need you to do and what you don't have to do. And then last but not least, you're going to complete your homework on big ideas. Know that I'm always here to help with frequent questions. If you need to see me during my office hours at 10:30, or if you need to set up another time to meet with me, we can try and set up a Zoom um, session and tackle all those questions you've got. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get started on frequent questions. If I can zoom or scroll down on my screen. That's weird. It's not letting me scroll. I scrolled. So what we're going to do, these are the most frequent questions that I got asked by you guys. And that is finding the square root of when there's a number, like a fraction on the top and bottom. And then when there's a decimal. And then when just a quick evaluate the expression problem. So the first one, a little tip to you guys, kind of tackle it like top and bottom. So like when I say top and bottom, think of this as square root of 1 all over square root of 100. A lot of you were a little confused on what to do from there before when there's 2. So kind of break it apart. So find the square root of 1. So you're trying to find what times itself equals 1. Well, in this case, it's just 1. And then you want to find the square root of 100. What is a number that times itself equals 100? And that is 10. This negative sign on the outside, I want you to make sure that you are aware that that just tags along in your answer no matter what, since it is on the outside. So your answer will always be negative, -1/10. All right, for the second one, a lot of you, I saw you typing in on Google the square root of 12.25. Let's just say in a perfect world we didn't have a calculator, which I would probably make you guys do in class without one. I would force you guys to change this into a fraction. So what I would do, if you don't know how to change this into a fraction, think of 12 and then think of 0.25. That is telling me, and I should erase that decimal point real quick. That should tell you, you're thinking that is 25 hundredths. That is telling you that you can write that as 25 over 100, which yes, you can go and change that into an improper fraction, or if you already know how to reduce that, which is a lot easier to look at, that is 12 and 1/4. Think of 25 cents, 1/4 out of 4 quarters. So change this into an improper fraction, because this is still a little hard to find the square root of those numbers, because I don't really see any perfect squares out of there. So you're going to do 12 times 4, and I'm going to change my color, which is 48 plus 1. Now I got 49, and then take your denominator of 4. Now this looks a little easier where I can break apart the top and the bottom into perfect squares. So the square root of 49, so something times itself is 49, and that would be 7. And then the bottom, something times itself equals 4, that would be 7 over 2. You could either do 7 over 2, which I would accept, or I know Big Ideas really likes for you to reduce that to 3.5. Awesome. So hopefully that kind of answered some of your questions on misconceptions that you guys have been having. And so you're going to apply that when you evaluate expressions as well. Excuse me. So this first one, or this last frequent question one, I should say, it says evaluate the expression. It says the square root of 28 over 7 plus 2.4. So this one I can't really break apart the top and the bottom because those aren't perfect squares. So what I would do in this case is actually do step 1, 28 divided by 7. In that case would be 4. All you did was simplify it. And that's totally cool. Change it into numbers that are nice. So now you have the square root of 4 plus 2.4. And the square root of 4, guys, is 2. And 2 plus 2.4 is 4.4, which would give me my final answer. So there's a couple hints and tips for you guys while you guys are solving these problems. I'm going to move down. I have provided you guys with a couple problems. I have an extra one down here, but what I want you to do is I want to challenge you to pause the video right now. Give these a shot with the new tips that I gave you, and then check back in to check your answers. All right, so hopefully you guys gave it a good shot. So this first one, it's not a nice decimal, but you still can use the little hint that I gave you above. So you can break this into 1, and then that's 44 hundredths. It's in the hundredths place, so I can put 44 over 100, and then I can reduce that fraction. So 1, and then a number that can go into 44 and 100 would be 4. So 44 divided by 4, that would be 11. 100 divided by 4 would be 25. So then you're going to go ahead, change that into an improper fraction. And 25 times 1 is 25, plus 11 is 35 over 25. It's a little tricky, isn't it? Oh, it's 36. I added wrong. Whoops. So 36 over 25, you should know that the perfect square of 36 is 6, and then the perfect square of 25 is 5. That would be my final answer. I can do 6 over 5, or I can make this 1 and 1/5. Totally up to you. I think it accepts both, but you never know. So the next one, I know the next one, guys. Please stay away from typing into your calculator. I'll give you guys kind of a hint on how to do this one. I like to break it apart. Think about perfect squares that you can multiply together to get 900. So first thing that kind of comes to mind is 9 is a perfect square, right? Think about the square root of 9 times 100 would be a perfect square because 100 times 9 equals 900. So kind of break it apart in that way where you get like a little tree action going. Then you can simplify it. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 100 is 10. So I know at the end that the square root of plus minus square root of negative 9. I keep saying that wrong. The plus negative square root of 900 is plus negative 30, which would be positive 30 and negative 30. So just kind of, instead of going to Google, which you guys love to do, give that a shot. All right, last but not least, this is one where you can break it apart. So find the top where it's the square root of 4 all over square root of 25. And remember, you're going to have 2 answers for this one. Perfect square of 4 is 2. Perfect square of 25 is 5. So your answer would be negative 2/5 and positive 2/5. So you can also do plus minus 2/5. Same thing, but just 2 ways to write it. All right, last but not least, guys, I have this awesome extra evaluate the expression problem. So give that a whirl, pause the video, and then we'll get back at it. All right, so hopefully your eyes go straight to the square root sign because that's kind of order of operations, kind of action going on there. You're going to want to simplify that square root, and that square root is going to come down to 1, and the perfect square of 6, or excuse me, square root of 16 is 4. But don't forget that you have this -4 on the outside. It's a tricky question right there. So yes, you were able to drop that square root sign when you changed it to 1/4, because the square root of 1 is 1 and the square root of 16 is 4. But you still need to think of it as multiplication. Okay, so don't forget that. So right now we got order of operations going on. So I need to do -4 times 1/4. And that, guys, would simplify to -1. And then I bring down my 10. So 10 minus 1, my final answer would be 9. So that kind of concludes some things I wanted to make sure that we covered before moving on. Because yes, it is going to get harder. And I do have complete faith that you guys got this. So let me show you where you guys can go for the lesson. I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger here in a second. So I made my screen bigger. Let me show you where I want you to go on Big Ideas. So go to Big Ideas through the portal. You should be on your home screen. Obviously, mine looks a little different. We went over this. You can either access your dynamic classroom from your components, or you can go over to the little hamburger over here, if it'll let me click it. I'm just going to click over here, guys, for time's sake. And then obviously I was trying out some try-its earlier, but make sure you go to the menu bar. You guys probably were on 15.1 still. If not, make sure you go down to chapter 15. We are doing 15.2. We are doing Pythagorean theorem today. Get excited. And where I want to make sure that you guys do not do the warm-up. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Do not do the exploration. What I want you to do is the lesson. And yes, please click key ideas. This is the main thing for today's lesson. And if you skip this slide, Cordia. And if you skip this slide, you are probably going to struggle a little bit. You need to know all the ins and outs of this key idea slide. This is talking about legs, A, which is represented by A, another leg that's represented by B, and then the hypotenuse. That's a new word for you guys. That is the side opposite of the right angle of this triangle, and that's called the hypotenuse, represented with the letter C. Let's see. The Pythagorean theorem is called a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That is a huge formula that you are going to be using today to solve problems and examples. So make sure you do not skip this slide. And then make sure you're taking your time through the lessons to watch the step-by-step problems. So best of luck. You've got this. Go down, make sure you do the whole lesson all the way to try-it 7-8. And then that'll be the last thing that I'm going to expect you guys to do. So no self-assessments, no modeling real life, and then no exercises. So you will be free to move on to the homework after that. So best of luck, guys. You've got this. If you need anything at all, I am always here to help.